Built directly into the massive limestone cliffs of Deir al-Bahari, this temple belonged to Hatshepsut. She was a female pharaoh who oversaw one of the most prosperous and stable periods in ancient Egyptian history. But despite her successful multi-decade reign, archaeologists found a massive historical anomaly at her temple. The majority of her statues were systematically shattered and discarded in nearby stone quarries. For nearly a century, historians attributed this to damnatio memoriae, a deliberate political campaign to erase a condemned person from history. The theory was that her successor, Thutmose III, destroyed the monuments in a fit of vengeance to wipe out her legacy. However, forensic analysis reveals a different story. The statues weren't smashed randomly. They were broken along the same structural weak points in nearly every instance: the neck, the waist, and the knees. This pattern follows a formal ancient Egyptian religious protocol known as deactivation. It was a precise process used to neutralize the spiritual power believed to reside within a physical image. To understand why her successor felt the need to magically unplug this temple, we have to look at how the building was designed to function as a source of power. The temple's horizontal terraces mirror the natural striations of the cliff face behind them. This open, airy layout was a significant departure from the heavily walled, fortress-like temples of previous eras. The builders used local Theban limestone, effectively carving the architecture from the same material as the mountain. These deep, diagonal tool marks etched into a limestone block provide a surviving record of the manual labor required to shape the stone. Architects utilized stoas, covered colonnaded walkways along the terrace edges. This created a transition zone where the interior spaces were still partially open to the sky and the elements. Archaeological soil samples show that live myrrh and frankincense trees were planted directly onto these stone terraces, further blurring the line between the built structure and the natural landscape. By visually binding the temple to the cliffs, the architects linked the stability of Hatshepsut's reign to the permanence of the mountain itself. As a female pharaoh, Hatshepsut needed a way to justify ruling as a fully recognized king rather than a temporary regent. The reliefs in the birthing room provided this justification. They depict the gods participating in her mother's pregnancy, asserting that her right to rule was a matter of divine conception. In the Punt colonnade, carvings show teams of sailors rowing large trade ships. These scenes recorded her successful expeditions to Africa, but they also serve to magically and eternally provide the god Amun-Ra with the exotic incense gathered on those trips. Lining the upper terrace were 26 Osirate statues. These figures represent the ruler as a mummy, assuming the form of Osiris, the god of resurrection. These restored statues show how she combined the royal double crown of a unified Egypt with the curved divine beards of the gods. These artistic programs turned the temple into a functioning engine of legitimacy, projecting her authority as both the mother and the father of Egypt. The temple's design also incorporated the movements of the sky. The central axis of the building is engineered to align to a 116.5-degree azimuth toward the eastern horizon. On the morning of the midwinter solstice, the rising sun travels directly down this axis, moving up the central ramp and piercing the temple entrance. The light passes through a 44-centimeter square aperture, a light box, intentionally built above the inner sanctuary doors. Within the sanctuary, the beam shifts across the wall. It illuminates the figure of the sun god Amun before moving to highlight the figure of the king. This alignment ensured that the sun god's visual endorsement would repeat every year, maintaining the temple's ritual potency for millennia. Knowing how the building was designed to work clarifies why the statues were later broken. A targeted strike to the neck was a way to sever the connection between the image and its power. The temple was a self-sustaining system. It drew from the landscape, the economy of trade, and the literal path of the sun to manufacture authority. To secure his own lineage, Thutmose III needed to neutralize this system. The deactivation of the statues was a formal acknowledgement of the building's potency. It was a ritual necessity to turn off a structure that was otherwise designed to act eternally. Hatshepsut's builders created an engine of legitimacy so effective that the only way for the next king to begin his own era was to systematically and magically unplug it.